Your Steve Jones Show podcast is loading now. The Steve Jones Show podcast is sponsored by Sunbury Motors, North 4th Street in Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. Sports talk where your voice counts. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And you can go online to sunburymotors.com and check out their great lines of Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, pre-owned inventory. You can actually get the buying process started from the comfort of your own living room. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Well, let's get to a slice of history in our play-by-play call today. Pete Rose had tied Stan Musial's record, and then baseball went on strike for 7 weeks. First game back when they finally got rolling again, Pete Rose stepped past Stan the Man.
Pulling for Rose here at this ballpark tonight. How many people come to that game? There's a youngster. That's Petey Jr. The strike one pitch to Rose. Bouncer to the hole. There it is.
Pete Rose, career hit number 36-31, ironically, by the way, against the St. Louis Cardinals. Stan Musial's team forever. All right, very pleased to bring in Serena Winters, who does a great job on the Sixers network. Serena, welcome. We hope you and yours are safe and sound and everything's going well for you.
Thanks so much. Happy to be here. Right back at you, Steve.
Thanks. Appreciate it, Serena. Let's start with the bubble. Some players have expressed concerns about being in the bubble. In other words, you're going to go from the apartment or complex, whatever, play, go back, play, go back, eat in between with nothing else. What are your thoughts on the concerns that the players have with that, Serena?
Well, look, I think that they are valid, right? Because you are asking these guys to not just stay in the bubble and have those concerns of feeling like they can't leave, but also, these guys that have families and talking about when are families allowed, how many family members can they be, and also, see, you got to think about guys that maybe have some wives that are expecting children and not being able to be around their wives for that. So I understand the concerns. I find them valid, but at the end of the day, I think that the commissioner and the NBA had to come up with the best solution, and there were going to be problems with any solution, and this seems to be like the best one.
And I completely agree with everything you just said, because part of this is that let's take the money out of it. Look, these are people, all right? And guess what? They have lives, and they have concerns, and they have kids. I remember talking with Bill O'Brien one time about the difference between coaching college kids, which he did here at Penn State, and coaching pros. And he said, with pros, you're dealing with men. Well, that's what's happening here. And in order to attempt to pull this off, they're really having their circle really tightened in a tremendous way.
Oh, absolutely. And also that every player is so different in their lives, right? You're going to have some of the players who are just first, second year, maybe third year players, young, willing to just stay in the bubble, and maybe it might not concern them as much. But then you've got guys, let's take the Sixers as an example, and use a guy like Al Horford, a veteran who's got a family, who, it's different for all of the players in different ways. And on top of that, Steve, it's not just the players, right? Because you now are thinking about coaching staff. And obviously the coaching staff or the traveling party is going to be more limited now. But you've got to think about the coaching staff and the training staff in the same respect that you think about the players in terms of their families and how that can affect everybody. So, I mean, it's certainly unprecedented times, and I can see where everybody's coming from.
Serena, where were you when they put a halt to the season?
I was sitting in the press conference room at Wells Fargo Center. It was literally, I tell you, maybe 4 minutes after I had just interviewed Joel Embiid for what we would normally call a post-game walk-off, but at the time, there were already the rules in place that you had to be at least 6 feet away. And so Joel and I were in a hallway, 6 feet away. We were using a boom mic and doing, a bit of an awkward post-game walk-off interview. And I really just sat down in the press conference room waiting for Brett Brown to come out, thinking about what had happened that day. And then the news broke. And it was a very surreal moment. I sat there for quite some time.
Yeah, and I was in Indianapolis getting ready to do the Big Ten tournament when same thing. It just felt surreal because everything just happened so fast. It was just spiraling. It seemed out of control, and everything came to a stop. Have they talked to you yet, Serena, about broadcast approach in this?
I do think that there are still things that are up in the air, so nothing is for certain. But I can tell you that the majority of what I've been hearing, and this isn't just from our network, but from other networks and, from conversations that people have been having in terms of broadcasting, is the most likely scenario seems that broadcasters, the majority of especially regional networks, broadcasters will be broadcasting out of potentially a studio, 6 feet apart, so you're social distancing, with games that are then being fed back from Orlando. Again, that could all change, just like how the NBA had conversations in terms of what the best scenario is. I know that the NBA broadcast companies, everybody's having the same conversations, but right now it seems pretty unlikely that somebody in my position would be part of that bubble in Orlando.
Yeah, that's it, and you should be, to me. But again, I want you safe and sound too. To me, part of the key to this is, I think teams that are tight, I think it helps. Now you got to stay in shape and so forth, hit shots. But I think the teams that are the tighter teams in that locker room, and you can tell when they are and when they aren't, have a good shot in a tournament like this. How would you describe the Sixers in that regard, since you are around them as closely as you are, Serena?
Well, first, I think you make a good point that I maybe hadn't really thought of in terms of, we talk so much about, like, the word chemistry, right? It gets thrown around all the time. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you've got to be, best friends and going out all the time, but there's something to that in terms of when you come back and you're part of this bubble. I mean, your circle has just gotten so tight, and you're going to be with this group for such a long period of time. You've got to imagine that teams that can find positives and draw off of that would be better off. And I know that, for example, when this all happened, similar, and I don't know if you had this, but for me, I would have my friend group where we would do things like FaceTime calls, happy hour calls, things like that. I know the players had that as well. And I had heard that Tobias Harris was kind of like the bartender of sorts for, a quote-unquote, happy hour type of thing, whether it's a video call, this, that, or the other. And I think that if those types of things were happening, it might sound silly to some people, but I think that really matters, because keeping connected, right, during this time can certainly play into when the season starts back up again in Orlando, right?
Right. Well said. Obviously, national TV money is playing a role in this coming back. Do you think it's important that the NBA does get back for this particular season, in your opinion?
Well, I think that, number one, whatever decision was made, you had to make sure that health and safety was first, right? And I think that the commissioner, Adam Silver, did a really impressive job. I mean, thinking about what his life has been like, right, over the past few months of, does that guy sleep? The amount of calls he was probably taking just to get everybody's different opinion, viewpoints, the facts, the science, all of it, taking it all in and trying to come up with certain scenarios to vote on. I think once that you got past this is the safest we can create a safe environment for the season to resume. If that happened, then yes, I think it was important that the season can resume. So at the end of the day, though, too, like, I understand people's concerns, right? We live in such an unprecedented time. If people don't feel safe to go to that environment in terms of players, and I know that that's being talked about, right, Steve, that potentially some players have been expressing their concerns. I get that. So I think, although I do believe it was important for the season to resume, it was only if they could come up with a scenario where health was the number one priority, because at the end of the day, yes, it's just a game. But you also think about, like, the amount of months, the work that the players have been putting into this season to win a championship, and you think about the contract situations, and you just think about all of that. It's fair to give it a shot again, right? So you don't feel like it was all for naught. Because imagine if the season did come up to a complete halt and you felt like that was your window of opportunity, and now it's not there anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. In your previous answer, you mentioned that the day all this happened, you had just finished talking with Joel Embiid. What have you seen in his development, not only as a player, but also as a person that you can talk to? What has that been like for you to deal with a guy like Joel Embiid, and how well are you treated by these players?
Well, first I'll say with Joel, and really with any player, I always try to put myself in their shoes, because they live a very different life than I do, right? Yep. And specifically with a player like Joel Embiid, who is so well known, and not just so well known for what he does on the court, but so well known for the personality side to it, right? And what's expected of him. There's really high expectations on him, and he's a guy that, in my opinion, is at his best on the court when he feels comfortable being himself. And being himself on the court is having fun and trash talking, getting into it, and pumping up his chest and getting the crowd going. I find that that's when Joel's at his best, right? But at the same time, it must be hard for a player and a young guy in his shoes also, when at the same time you get backlash from that, right? And we all know what happened at the beginning of the season as well, which led to, a suspension. And then you start thinking about, okay, well, would it hurt? Does it hurt the team in the long run? And maybe there's talks about, like, oh, can you tone it down a little bit, Joel? If those things are happening, then you're probably trying to figure out, both as a player and as a person, like, what is the best thing for me to do? And I'm sure it can be confusing, right? Some people want me to just be serious. Some people want me to have fun. What's the best way to do it? And I think that I've seen him kind of struggle through that a little bit, right? And I think we saw that this past season, because you can tell the different types of modes that he has been in. And I did feel like, when it was, right before the All-Star break, or right after, you did feel like there was a Joel coming back into his skin of, let's just go out there and have a good time. I don't care about what anybody else thinks, right? And I think when you saw that and you felt that, you were so excited to see what was the next level he was going to bring it to on the court, right? But he's talked about himself having those struggles of feeling like people want him to be a certain way, act a certain way, his personality is a certain way. And I think he's tried that. And if it doesn't make you happy, then that's not going to convey on the court. I think that's when he's at his best. I'm all here for that Joel Embiid. I hope that we get to see that in Orlando. But that's going to be interesting too, right? Because without the fans and that to feed off of, some of these guys like Joel, they feed off of that, right? So I think like anybody, he's gone through a little bit of a roller coaster of just trying to figure out how to be the best version of himself.
Well, he's a generational talent, and I think he has a generational spirit to him. So, I mean, I love watching him play. And I think when he is out there just being him and not thinking about what people think he should be, I think he's a better player. Serena, absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your perspective and insight. I hope somehow, some way they get you back into the game so you can be there with them. We'll see how it goes here in the next maybe 6-7 weeks. Maybe things will change for it.
Absolutely. Well, whether I'm there or not, you will see me. We will bring you the coverage. I will be somewhere broadcasting to you.
I'm looking forward to it because you do great work, by the way. I appreciate that very much. Appreciate you. Thank you. Serena Winters joining us. Does a great job with the Sixers and on their broadcasts. We'll come back, final half hour. Keaton Ellis of the Nittany Lion football team on getting his COVID test, which, by the way, he tested negative, and getting back to work and working out on Monday. As we continue on News Radio 1070 WKOK, brought to you by Sunbury Motors. When it comes to car buying, there's the other guy's way, and then there's the SMC way. The other guys force you into a vehicle you really don't want. The Sunbury Motors way lets you take the time you need to browse, ask questions, and take the test drive and think on it. For over 100 years, the Mertz family and all their employees have made your experience the most pleasant one you'll ever have. The other guys won't offer you the best price for your trade, no matter how much they say they will. The SMC way is their promise to provide you with the most money the market shows your vehicle is worth. The SMC way is to offer you all applicable factory rebates on new vehicles and generous discounts. Looking for a pre-owned vehicle? The SMC way checks each vehicle in a 200-mile radius to determine the lowest price, then beat it. It's the lowest price promise, just part of the SMC way. The choice is up to you. The other guy's way or the SMC way. The SMC way wins every time. Sunbury Motors Company in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza, Sunbury, and at sunburymotors.com. Selling more cars and satisfying more customers for over 100 years. Now, when the suit makes a sale that's not a mega sale, he moonwalks to this. Can you picture it?
I can if I picture it with a polyester leisure suit.
Well, that's most of his closet. You ever see the show WKRP in Cincinnati?
Oh, absolutely.
Herb Tarlick.
Yep.
We had a guy at the station I first worked at 40 years ago. Great guy. In fact, believe it or not, sells vehicles at the Penske BMW dealership in Scottsdale right across from the hotel where we stayed for the Fiesta Bowl a couple of years ago. So I got a chance to sit down with him. His name is Henry Mail. When I did my first women's basketball game, it was Rainey Portland's first game, as a matter of fact. I worked with him and Ron Ruman. Ron Ruman was the other guy. But the first game I did on the men's network in 1981, it was November of 1981. Penn State played Bloomsburg, so it was my first game on the Penn State Sports Network. Henry Mail was my color analyst. Well, Henry, of course, had the on-air experience, and that's why, because we'd done women's basketball games together and so forth. And so we were asked by Fran Fisher to fill in because Fran and John Grant were in Pittsburgh during what turned out to be famous Penn State Pitt game that Penn State was down 14-0, rallied to win 48-14. That night, Penn State played Bloomsburg. Well, Henry was in sales at the time at the radio station, as well as then doubling and doing some on-air work. And this was the time when WKRP was in its heyday, so his nickname in the station was Herb Tarlick. So we just called him Herb all the time. I believe that show in rerun has, I think it took a long time to get that show into rerun because of all the music that played on there. I think that was the reason, right?
Yeah, they have to get all the copyrights and stuff to do that again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's playing on, I think it's on MeTV right now.
It's on MeTV, and I think it was on TV Land for a little bit. I mean, I haven't really, to be honest with you, I haven't really seen it in a long, long time. But, yeah, that's what we call them, Herb Tarlick. Herb.
Yeah, I watched.
Great guy.
In late November, around Thanksgiving, they had on the turkey episode. I did watch that when it was on.
Oh, the turkey episode is famous. Where they're dropping the turkeys out of a helicopter. And the boss says, God is my witness. I swear I thought turkeys could fly. And Les Nessman, the newsman, standing in the parking lot. Oh, the mass of humanity. Dr. Johnny Fever, Howard Hessman. Howard Hessman has this great line. WKRP in Cincinnati, more music, less Nessman. Oh, man. Next half hour, we'll hear from Keaton Ellis, entering his sophomore season for the Nittany Lions. He'll talk about going negative on his COVID tests to what he expects starting on Monday when they get to go inside Huluba Hall and work out. Today's show brought to you by Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And at sunburymotors.com on News Radio 1070 WKOK.
Taking your calls at 800-795-9565. This is The Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Now, from the Sunbury Motors Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And you can go online right now at sunburymotors.com. Check out the great lines of Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, pre-owned inventory. Great deals right now, and you get the buying process started from the comfort of your own living room. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Where, by the way, they have a great service department. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and yes, online at sunburymotors.com. All right, Keaton Ellis. Very good freshman season. I thought started out really well, then kind of hit a little valley. You know, that happens. But it's how do you react to that? And he got himself back on track, and I thought he finished strong. And I thought he had a really good bowl game against Memphis. Heading into his sophomore season, he had a chance yesterday to talk with the media, starting out with Mark Brennan from Fight On State.
Hey, Keaton, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Great. I appreciate you doing this. I wonder what it was like for you emotionally last week when you heard about the phased return. And can you take us through what it's been like for you these first few days of it? Has there been testing involved? I mean, what's kind of going on for you guys?
Yeah. So when I first heard the news, I was really excited. Obviously, because this it's the first step in trying to get back to normal, getting everybody together, start practicing and that kind of stuff. So this first phase, I got tested the other day, so went through all that. We did physical stuff. So that's what this week's been really is, making sure everybody's healthy and getting kind of everybody's return physical stuff done. But, I'm just really excited and excited to be back and, moving forward.
Next question is Greg Pickle, Penn Live.
Hey, Keaton, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you so much. Can you just tell us what it's like now to be waiting around so you can work out next week, and what can you do in the interim to sort of build up to that point?
Yeah, so I've been working out on my own, throughout the whole quarantine. Me being in state college, I was able to use the fields and on my weight room. So I'm kind of doing those same things now. Just get ready till we start coming back soon to lifting with the team and doing all that. But I'm just really excited, like I said before.
Ben Jones, statecollege.com.
Keaton, when you go through the process of a summer before your first season, how is that different from going through the process of the summer now? Obviously, everything that's happened has made the routine a little different, but in terms of where your head's at, how is it different now compared to a year ago?
I mean, a year ago, you put in the same work. It's more structured because you're with the strength staff, and they're working personally with you. So what's been different there has been that personal connection with the strength staff. We still call them, they still talk to us, make sure we have good situations and doing the right workouts, that kind of stuff. So as far as preparation, not a whole lot's changed. Just the situation, right? So you're putting in the same work, and I think I'm a little bit even more motivated, right? Because you're seeing sports, that stuff can go away in an instant. So you gotta take it as a blessing to be able to try and get back and play, and which we're working really hard, and we're excited for the season.
Next up is John Sauber, Center Daily Times.
Hey, Keaton. Thanks for taking the time today. I appreciate it. So, I know you spoke to State High coaches and student athletes last week about racial injustice. What was that conversation like, and what was your message to those guys?
Yeah, that was a really powerful call. It was some students from each of the sports teams, some students, on like student council, that kind of stuff, and teachers, coaches. So it was a good group of people, and it was pretty much the leaders at my high school in State High, right? So, I just was trying to, preach to them that, if they're on this call, they have power and they have influence in their community, and they can make a huge impact even in state college. And I just told them, spread love, unity, and another thing I said, what sports is, makes sports so powerful is it brings a lot of people from different backgrounds, different races, that kind of stuff together. So I just said use that and be the influence, and spread love, and just do those things. And it was a great platform, and I'm glad people are making the effort to have communication, have these talks, and so everybody can understand and educate themselves. And so that's basically what I was saying in that meeting. And Penn State did something very similar, and it's just really, really exciting, and it's the right steps for change. And I think I was thankful I was able to speak and be a part of that.
Our next question is Audrey Stutter, The Athletic.
Keaton, thanks for your time this afternoon.
Yep.
Going back to the testing and all of that, I'm curious now, having gone through it, how would you describe the process of getting the COVID-19 test? And have you guys been told yet in terms of what your access to the building will be like, and those types of things, since it's going to be such an adjustment for everybody?
Yeah, as far as the test, it was a unique experience. It wasn't too evasive, but it was, it took 15 seconds tops, so it was quick. But as far as access to facilities, they're being very strict. They got a lot of stuff in place, so we can move forward successfully. So right now we're strictly going to be in Haluba for the most part. So, but that stuff will evolve as time goes on, and they're just looking out for our health, which is good. So they have a really good plan to put in place.
Next question is Rich Scarcella, Reading Eagle.
Hi, Keaton. Thanks for your time. Follow up on Audrey's question, and I think you touched on this. But are you concerned at all about your safety with regards to coronavirus? And do you feel, it sounds like you feel like the right steps are being taken? Secondly, what was it like that first time on Monday, returning to Haluba and maybe seeing some of your teammates for the first time in 3 months?
Yeah, it was great seeing some of those guys, and everything is not going to be normal, when you go back, and you have to understand that, and I understand that, and all the team understands that, and we're ready to, as players, to make some sacrifices, because that's what it's going to take to move forward. And like I said, they have a good plan put in place, and and I believe we can get through this stuff successful. And I'm not worried. I'm excited. And where everybody's excited because we want to play football, and that's at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Playing the sport we love. So, we're gonna have to go through some different things, in order to do that.
Next question is Donnie Collins with the Times Tribune.
Hey, Keaton, I'm just wondering, once you got back, what was the most familiar thing that you guys saw, and what was the strangest thing that about getting back and having it not be normal? And also, how often do you think you guys are going to be tested? Has that been articulated to you guys yet?
No, not specifically. It's going to be whether this whole, if you have symptoms and that kind of thing, and contact tracing. So that's probably how it's going to be going. But we haven't got any specifics about that. But the most familiar thing is the people. The people are still the same. You still have those same connections that you had before. And it was great to start to see people and talk to them because you haven't seen them for a while. So that's probably most the familiar thing. And then the most different thing going back for me is just the structure of everything. It's walking in mass. It's 6 feet apart. It's it's all this different stuff. And when you're gonna work out, you're gonna get these gator stuff. So it's those little things that don't seem, but there's like little changes that really make a big difference. But like I said.
Next question is Tyler Donahue, Lions 247.
Hey Keaton, good afternoon. Thanks for your time today. We had a chance to speak with Tariq a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking about your class of cornerbacks, you, Daquan, Joey, and Marquise. How would you evaluate that group, and specifically with you getting that start last year in the regular season finale? Can you kind of take us into the battle for the starting cornerback job that was left by John Reed and what your expectations are?
Yeah, I mean, we have a very talented group right now. I mean, across the board and all the corners, and especially in our class. And it's going to be, a battle, right? So it's competition. It's no spots given. Even Tariq's spot's not given. So we're all working very hard and pushing each other, because if we're all getting better, then we're better as a team, better as a unit. And I think we have good camaraderie in the room, and we all work very hard and push each other. So I'm excited.
Frank Bodani with the York Daily Record.
Hi, Keaton. You mentioned the word sacrifice a little bit earlier. What kind of sacrifices do you envision having to make, and what do you think might be one of the tougher or a couple of the toughest things going forward to get adjusted to now?
Yeah, so there's going to be a lot of different things, as far as working out and practicing and going, through all the different stuff that comes with, the protocols that they put in place. And one of the biggest sacrifices is probably going to be outside of Lash, outside of football, making sure everybody's, being accountable for each other and standing inside the team and not going out and doing different things that could risk and jeopardize people who do the coronavirus. So, we're all going to have to make some sacrifices. But I think as a team, we're all prepared to do that and just to move forward.
Next question is Nubias Wilborn with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette.
Hey, what's up, brother? Thanks for doing this, man.
Thank you.
Question for you, what over these last 3 months have you learned about yourself or maybe about a teammate that you wouldn't have learned without this quarantine time?
Yeah, it's honestly, with the quarantine time and, the situation in America, I have had a lot of conversations with, my teammates and friends and different things, just about what's going on and how they feel, and, what's some stories. And I think, I learned a lot about myself too, and other people as far as like their situations, what other people are going through during this time, because we're all going through the same things. And we just had those conversations about how they're feeling. And so I felt like I was able to kind of honestly get closer to some people in that aspect, right? We're all quarantined, we're all in our bubbles, and then with all this other stuff going on, I was able to have a lot of good conversation with people. So I say nothing specifically, but I say I definitely was able to get closer with a lot of people through this. And I think the team itself is getting a lot closer through meetings and stuff like that, just still having those conversations and building those connections.
Next question is Mark Wogenrich, SI.com.
Keaton, thanks so much for doing this today. Coming up on Monday, what's that going to look like? What time do you go? Where do you go? What do you get to do? That sort of thing.
I don't have details right now, but right now we're lifting 3 days a week, lifting and running through Haluba, and start our normal workouts like we would before, but with some different nuances as far as spaced out locker rooms and working out in the open outside, lifting in Haluba outside, so different things like that. But we're gonna each week, we're gonna start getting closer to a normal schedule that we usually would have, because we're getting right back into the swing of things as far as workouts and meetings and all that.
Next question is Andrew Porterfield, Daily Collegian.
Hey Keaton, thanks for doing this. So coming off your freshman year, what are some improvements that you would like to make coming into your sophomore season, and how have you been making those adjustments throughout this quarantine time?
Yeah, so a big thing for me is just maturing as a football player, understanding the game more, understanding our playbook and understanding offenses. So mentally, we've had a lot of good meetings, through Zoom, just to get mentally, prepared for, the season. That's something I'm pushing myself to work on. And as far as football specifically, finding the ball in the air, my footwork, just lifting my game in all levels, and stuff I'm working on is stuff I'm good at and stuff I'm not good at. So I'm just trying to, work on everything and just keep becoming better each day.
All right, we have time for another round of questions. If you do not have a question the second time around, just say pass. We'll go Mark Brennan, Fight On State. Hold on, Mark. Go ahead.
Hey, Keaton, you talked a little earlier about the camaraderie among the corners from your recruiting class. Can you discuss that a little bit more? How tight are you guys, and how difficult is it to keep that tightness when you're competing for jobs against each other?
Yeah, it's sometimes hard, right? Because that's the guy you're trying to steal the job, and everybody knows it. It's not, we don't hide that. Coach is very, open. He says what's what, and so we all, completely understand that, and I think it makes us all work harder. And just us, especially the younger guys, we're working, to get those spots, the starting spots. Even though we were younger, we still competed with each other, and you saw we were all able to get on the field and contribute. And I think that's what's really special about us, because if one of us isn't doing as well, we pick them up just because of the competition and the hard work, and just we've been building camaraderie, just because we're always together, right? Meetings and this and that, we're always together. Practice, we're always together. So it's just a competition, and it's fun, and I love it.
Greg Pickle, Penn Live.
This might seem silly, but when we saw you guys work out in February and also last year at Lift for Life, there's a lot of closeness to that, encouragement and celebration, high fives, things like that, things that aren't really advisable in this day and age. Have you given any thought to what motivation and congratulations look like for workouts under these conditions?
Yeah, it's going to be different. I think obviously verbally, that's the biggest thing. Because you're not going to have that physical contact, the daps, the high fives, the chest pumps. You won't have as much of that as you did before. But I think it's still going to be the same. The leader's still going to be vocal, and if someone makes a good play or someone is working hard, you can still let them know and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think that much is going to change on that aspect of it.
That is Keaton Ellis, sophomore to be for the Nittany Lion football team. He tested negative He is back to work on Monday. We'll wrap it up in a moment. Brought to you by Sunbury Motors on News Radio 1070 WKOK. Great to have you with us. We'll hear from Jahan Dotson tomorrow. He's going to take over in that slot for Penn State. Boy, since the first day I saw him, I said, boy, this guy can play wide receiver. He knows how to play. If you remember, it looked like at one point he was going to commit to UCLA, and then he ended up coming here. He has been a big plus, and I think his role is going to get even larger in this offense. Looking forward to hearing from him tomorrow, but more importantly, looking forward to seeing him play this year. The Colonial Tournament is underway. The PGA Tour is back. And the leaders, Justin Rose, 7 under par 63, Jonathan Vegas, and Abraham Answer, along with Harold Varner, the third, all shot back, with Brian Harmon at 5 under par. And that is underway, a sense for the moment of normalcy. Now, they don't have fans there. They won't have fans on the PGA Tour until they get to next month when they play the Memorial, where it looks like they're going to have 8,000 allowed in to see the tournament. Today's show has been brought to you by our great friends at Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf. And you can go online to sunburymotors.com. Ford, Lincoln, Kia, Hyundai, great pre-owned inventory. You can shop online and get the process started from the comfort of your own living room. Sunbury Motors, 4th Street in Sunbury. Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf, and online at sunburymotors.com. Chad, thanks so much. It was great to have you here today.
Thanks. Good to be here. I'll be back a couple times the next couple of weeks.
Looking forward to it, my friend. Thank you so much. Back tomorrow on News Radio 1070 WKOK.